Flipping it up and out. Bogues! Ariza's blocked by Bogut.
Good recovery by Andrew Bogut.
Let's get rogue.
Welcome to Rogue Bogues. This is the basketball series. Appreciate everyone joining in. First week of the NBA season is not even in the books yet. We've still got a couple more days till it's officially a week. But, Pro, what's going on? Have you caught many games over the last couple of days?
Yeah, I have actually. I was watching the Lakers. I watched the Laker game today, that fucking debacle. And, I'm watching a lot of the Spurs. I got a client, Trey Jones, who I break down film for. So I've been watching him and just watching their deal. And, they seem to be like, the David Robinson, Tim Duncan Spurs. They've been knocking off everybody. So it's, as my friend Dave Severns likes to say, Bogues, the world isn't flat, it isn't round, it's upside fucking down. And that's what it is. The world's upside down.
Yeah, and that was the loss to the Portland Trailblazers, in which there was a lot of interesting possessions late. It was Anthony Davis hit the side of the backboard on a wide open three, and Russ came down and shot an early potential shot to put him up. It was just an absolute crazy fourth quarter. But this is the time of way too early predictions and reactions. We have a small sample size, Pro. We have obviously the undefeateds and the winlesses. But I mean, there's some teams that I'm going to start with Utah Jazz. I just watching their game against the New Orleans Pelicans. They lost Brandon Ingram early in that game. It was a very, very good game. And Utah were up big and New Orleans clawed it back. It was a great game to watch. But I mean, Utah undefeated at the moment. They were one of our tank teams. I think you might have had them last or second last. I mean, I had them at the bottom five. I mean, they're playing hard. I wonder if Danny Ainge goes into that office and says, "Hey, it's all good and well, but there's a bigger prize at the end of the tunnel. This team's probably not going to make much noise even if we do make the playoffs." But how do you? I mean, you've been part of winning teams and teams that have been shithouse. I guess have you ever had messaging from the front office that's kind of relayed down? Have you been involved in any of those meetings? Because it does get pretty interesting when a team like the Utah Jazz, was supposed to be in the Victor sweepstakes, start off 3-0.
Yeah, I've been in meetings where that message was passed on before I got to the meeting. Usually it's high up, sort of has that meeting, and then it just sort of dispersed. Like, hey, look, we're not really trying to win games. But I've never been a part of an organization when that was it from day one. It usually took place like in January or February. But it's got to be an interesting thing because obviously front office is always about where they're going to be in the future. And the coach doesn't, most likely the coach doesn't really echo that same sentiment. They always want to win. They're competitive. They're crusty about it. And they've got that ego.
Well, shit, the losses go on their record.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And they get fired, right? And the GM usually keeps their job. So, I mean, at this juncture, Bogues, but, I remember Carlisle's always saying this, like, he'd pull out the board after game one and put the rankings down. And you're like, what the fuck? But it does matter. These games early on, you might think, you know what? Let them start 5-1. Let them feel good about themselves, and then we'll take it from this point, that point forward. And then you're sitting there in April, and then you lose the coin flip because you tied, and you're looking at yourself as like, did that win in middle of October really matter? Like we couldn't have tanked it. And I mean, look, if it's a regular draft, maybe it doesn't matter going 1-2. But when you have a player like the French kid, like Vic, and it does matter because that, the difference between number one and number two, at least from what people are seeing now, is really big. But look, man, everybody's having fun. They're 3-0. Portland's 3-0. It's crazy. The Spurs are 2-1. All these teams that think, you think, they're taken for sure. You look up, they're in the top 7, top 8 in the conference right now. I know it's early, but it's pretty interesting.
This is why it's our early discussion and predictions. A lot can change in a week or two. You usually I feel like you need 2 or 3 weeks to really kind of let things settle. Road trips, guys lose their legs, travel, being on the road for a long time, being at home for a long time, all these things matter. Injuries play their part. So, but, you can only go on the sample size we have. And I think, the only two teams, I guess, that are meant to be up there that have come out blazing, maybe three. You include the Clippers, they're 2-0, and they play Phoenix at time of recording, so we won't know that result. Boston 3-0, Milwaukee 2-0. They're going to be both up there. So they're really the only teams that have come out and jumped out. Miami haven't looked great. I mean, they're 1-2, but in my opinion, haven't looked great. Philly, who I predicted to, just on a whim to go, something different, go to a championship, they're 0-3. And they look, I mean, Embiid's reportedly not fully healthy. Harden is, I think, back to his old ways defensively. I watched one of their games. He was getting back cut every third or fourth play by his guy. What's head scratching for me with Philly Pro is Matisse Thybulle's not playing. He was an all-league defender for 2 straight years, I believe. He made the all-defensive team 2 years in a row, if I'm not mistaken. And they need some defense on that squad. Maxi's more offense orientated. Okay, he'll pick up the ball a little bit. You got Harden. Tobias isn't known as a great defender. Harden's a horrible defender. Embiid is a solid defender, but you need him on the floor, so he can't go out there trying to be crazy defensively because you need him at the other end. PJ Tucker is probably probably their team. Him and Matisse will be the 2 best defenders. And look, Matisse's 3-ball streaky. I get it. Very athletic. You put him in and he knocks down a 3 or 2, and then you can leave him in and roll the dice. But he needs to play more than a minute and a half a game for them to have any chance, in my opinion. They're just that starting 5. PJ Tucker is really the only above average defender in that squad, in my opinion, and Embiid as well. But like I said, Embiid can't go out there crazy. But I think Philly will correct it. But man, they've started off poorly.
Yeah, they have, and the Thibault thing, it's weird to me too. I was going to mention it to you, yesterday or a couple of days ago. It is weird that he's only playing, barely just getting in games. The only way you're going to get a player better in this league is to play him minutes, play him NBA minutes. And somebody who's streaky shooting it, the only way he's going to get better is if you put him in games and draw plays up for him to get shots up. It's like the Ben Simmons thing, right? Until you actually shoot shots in a game, I don't care how your workouts are, what your strokes looking like. If you don't shoot them in games, you're never going to get better. And they need the defense. And I don't know who's sort of communicating that. I don't know if it was lack of shooting, and does Daryl Morey not like it and want minutes to go to, to Tucker, who he had in Houston, and he could shoot the ball better, more of a vet. I don't know. I don't know who's making that call, but they need some type of change of trajectory soon, because 0-3 in a very competitive East, and they just don't look like, Embiid. I mean, I saw him play against San Antonio yesterday, and he had a big game. I think he had 40 points, and he's getting it done offensively, but defensively, he's got to pick it up for them. You're not going to get it out of Harden. I don't think. It's never been his thing. And even before he went to Houston, it wasn't his thing. He just can't move his feet like that, defensively. So I think that Embiid, he's going to have to step up there. And I think they're going to have to play Thibault because, they don't really have anybody else that can really guard. Maxey, that's not his thing. He's a scorer. They got Tucker, but, Tucker even looks beat up. I mean, I know he's older. He's 37. But he doesn't look like he's moving very well either. And it's a long-ass season. There's 79 more games to go. So it'll be interesting where they end up.
Yeah, I feel like they got Tucker thinking that he's going to fix all the defensive problems single-handedly. That's what it seems like. It's like, their team defense isn't great, but Philly have started off awfully. And just to close off the Utah Jazz discussion, Lauri Markkanen has started the season on fire. He's currently 24, 10, and four odd assists a night. So he has come out gunning. He's a good mix of inside outside, can get to the bucket. He's shooting the three ball quite decently, but he's carrying on from his great off season there in the Eurobasket where he was gunning, and he's come here now and he started off really well. Brandon Ingram's started off the season very, very well. He left the game today with 10 points in 10 minutes due to concussion, so that sucks for him. But pre this game, he's 28, 8 and 6, and he's taken a huge jump. His body looks a little bit bigger. He looks like he's in great shape, and people that know him say he's all about just love of basketball. He doesn't care about all the other stuff, the red carpets and the all that kind of stuff. He just kind of does his thing, and I respect where he's built himself as a basketball player. So just two guys I wanted to mention there, Pro. Who else do we have? Where has the defense gone this season, Pro? I know it's the start of the year, but have you seen some of these scores? I mean, you look at it as we speak right now. There's 5 minutes left in the third quarter between Golden State and Sacramento. Golden State have 101. Sac have 81. So I know Golden State's kind of a strange one to look at because they do get numbers up, but even Sac has 81 with 5 minutes left. Like the pace of the game, it's extraordinary. I mean, Utah and New Orleans went to overtime, but it was 122, 121. Charlotte scored 126 against Atlanta in regulation. Like, it just seems like defense is not an emphasis. And I mean, you could probably put that down to the way the game's being officiated too, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think it's all being catered towards offense. And I think the way players play and train and prepare in the offseason, like, there's no like defensive role players anymore. It's all like, most of these players want to be offensive players, and they think they're talked into the fact that they could score and they could play offense and things like that. And I think that, especially the way the game's officiated, like you talked about and mentioned, I just think that there's really no one really is like excited about the defensive part. I feel bad for those defensive coordinators, to come in with all these like diagrams and stuff coming into the season, and like the players look at them like, yeah, okay, jerk off. Like, you could put that stuff and burn it because, there's no fucking way we're playing it. I just think that there's really not an emphasis on defense. I think most coaches are offensive minded. I think all that stuff about defense is, sounds good, but then putting it across to your players, I think it's a different thing. And, like the Tom Thibodeau's of the world, they're going to grind out defense, and a couple other coaches, maybe Spoelstra, but there aren't many of them. And I think they're going to stress offense. I think ownership and management are going to be like, look, we want an exciting brand of basketball. I think everybody talks the same language, space and pace and paint and downhill, even though the court's flat. Everybody wants to talk the same way, and they want to light up scoreboards like a pinball machine. And I just think that that's sort of where the game's going. It's where it's been going for a long time, and I think it's sort of hitting its stride, and it's here to stay. I don't think you're going to see defensive-minded basketball for a long time.
Yeah, but it's. I think you need the balance. Like all the teams that are, look at Boston, Golden State. Both made the finals. Both were above average defensive teams, especially, Boston was number one for a long, long time there. Milwaukee's usually up there and they're usually in the mix. Miami's usually up there, they're in the mix. You look out west, the Clippers, I assume, will be somewhere in that mix. Denver could improve, I think, defensively and get to the next step. So I think you need the balance. I think, it is all about offense, no doubt. But I think the good championship teams need that defensive effort, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Usually the worm kind of changes throughout the season. There's dips and curves, and we'll see how that all goes. Dallas looked good as well. I thought they looked pretty good, even though they lost their first game to Phoenix, emotional game for Phoenix, all that kind of stuff. So I didn't take too much into that, but they pummeled Memphis, absolutely destroyed Memphis, and they look pretty solid out of the gates, which we both predicted. Other than that, I mean, there's no real surprise. Look, I think Orlando, they're 0-3, but they battled, man. They easily could have been 2-1. They had Boston on, they had a chance to beat Boston, and Boston overcame them and won. But I think Orlando, for a tank team or one of those teams going to be at the bottom, they battled pretty hard. So I was kind of impressed with the way they played. Banchero is really good. He's going to be a phenomenal player in this league. Cleveland looked really good with Donovan. I mean, he's been sensational. We'll touch on that a little bit later in the stats segment, but he's come out blazing and led them to a few big wins. So it's still a bit early to kind of solidify who's going to be where, but definitely some teams that Utah shouldn't be number one. That's for sure. Even Portland, we both didn't think that they would be contending for a top 6, top 7, top 8 finish, and they're 1-2 at the moment in the West, Pro. So anything else you got for us as far as surprises or predictions?
No, it's just early, Bogues. It's really early. And I think that, it's just something that we just got to wait until the talent settles in and people settle down. The teams that the teams that sort of come out of the gate, they're they'll fall back to normalcy. But no, I think everybody's sort of, we've talked about, I think we mentioned all the teams that sort of are up and down on things. But I'll just tell you what, like this Lakers and Philly thing, it's going to get ugly in both of those cities pretty quickly if they don't really turn it around. Now, Philly,
especially Philly,
Philly, you can see turning around. They've got talent. They could win games. I don't think it's going to be a disaster. Although, probably what they've done to formulate that roster, it's probably going to be ugly. It's going to be ugly if they finish 4 or 5. But the Lakers, they just don't have anything more to give you. Like LeBron is giving you a lot of what LeBron can give you. Davis is playing. Westbrook's, even though he's not shooting it well, he's giving an effort, and they still can't.
Have you seen Russ's interviews though, man? Like he just looks completely defeated. Like I just watched another one before we jumped on. They asked him like, "How do you feel about 5 men defending you late in games? Like, what's the adjustment you guys need to make?" And he just kind of answered it like, "I don't know, and it just looks like his joy might be his fault. Who knows? But I think that, like I said from the start, Westbrook and LeBron together is not going to work. They don't have enough shooting. They're both similar players. They need the high usage guys. How the hell is this going to fit? And LeBron's more than obviously going for that record with the way he's playing. So it's sad to see a player that had so many great years, the triple-double record and all that kind of stuff, that people have forgotten about that. It's a what have you done for me now league, and Russ is in that situation. And I just hope for everyone's sake they get him out of there, get into a team that could use him, that's maybe a bubble playing team, scratching 6, 7, 8, maybe getting to one of those teams and see how it goes. But the problem is, those teams that are in that region are tanking or in the stakes for Victor. So it's like, do you bring in Russ as your main guy? Ball usage can maybe get you 5 or 10 more wins when it's still going to just get you in the fringe of the playoffs when you should probably be down the bottom to get that pick. So it's Russ, the Russ Lakers thing is not going away. As you mentioned, both those cities in Philly and LA, they're horrendously bad when you're bad, and it's getting worse day by day in LA with the media and the fans, man. It's sad to see.
Yeah, and look, Russ could put triple-double numbers up almost anywhere he plays. The question is, in about 90% of those situations, he can't be that kind of guy and you win games. He just doesn't, he's not an efficient player like that. He doesn't shoot the ball like that. Now he comes out, he'll come at you, shot out of a cannon. He'll come for your throat. He'll do all that. And he's a tough kid and he plays hard as hell and he's talented. The problem is his style of play, isn't like, he's an assist guy, but he doesn't have great vision. It doesn't make things easier on you like a Luka would, like a Jokic would with his assists, like a Rondo would. He's a guy that knows how to hunt an assist, get an assist, but like he doesn't make it easier with you. You need really talented players around you and around him for him to help you win. He's not that type of player. He can put up numbers up. I just don't think he's a guy that could really take you over the edge to win. It's a weird thing to explain, but I just don't see where he fits in, where it's a situation where like they're going to embrace having him and let him do what he does and the team sort of get better doing it. I think if I'm a team that's like a small market that, fan base is off a little bit, I need some excitement. But like with those teams, you're trying to have young guys. Like, if you look at it, what are you gonna like? The only real place that it really makes sense is like a Sacramento, to be honest. Like, they're not going anywhere. Nobody really cares. Put him in there. He's going to be exciting. Fans are going to love him, but they're not going to win games. Like, you look anywhere else, Houston, Oklahoma City, Minnesota, like he's not helping those guys. And if he goes to like first of all, back to Oklahoma City, say they're not going to do that because they've got Giddey and those guys. Like,
Giddey,
yeah, like
Utah was the other one. Utah was mentioned in rumors. The Lakers knocked back a trade apparently that had 2 future first rounders and a few players going here and there. They knocked that back. But yeah, you're right. Look, I mean, and the thing with Russ is as he goes into his decline now that he's getting older, I don't think he's a role player type. Because he doesn't shoot the ball well at the 1-2, right? So you can't really play him like, okay, we're going to bring you in as a vet off the bench. Like, you'll be maybe he could run a second unit, maybe. You get him on a team that can, hey, you run our second unit for 10, 15 minutes when the big dogs are out and get everyone involved and try to get that little, not triple-double, but, an 8, 5, and 5 off the bench for us. Maybe, but he has to buy into that. That's probably his role, I think, going forward, pro. Like, I don't think you can bring him in as a role player to play off the ball, to play off other superstars, like the quote-unquote role player. Like, if you brought him to, let's say, what Reggie Jackson and John Wall's role is with the Clippers, or, I don't think he can do that because he just doesn't shoot the 3-ball well enough, and that's what kills him. So maybe one of these, if he buys in a young and upcoming team as an insurance policy, but will Russ accept that? I think that's the biggest thing. He's at that crossroad in his career where, it's almost Melo-like, where, can you look yourself in the mirror and say, I'm not that guy anymore, I'm happy to play a role off the bench, or no one's going to sign you. And that's a tough thing. And just for Philly's sake, I mean, they should get a win tomorrow. They play Indiana tomorrow. If they lose that one and go 0-4 to Indiana, I think there's going to be some people in Philly firing up, but they've got the Pacers. They've got a home and home with the Raptors, which will be tough. If they split that, that's a good result. Bulls, Wizards in a home and home, and then Knicks. So they should go 500 at a minimum. But man, if we're talking next week and they're like 1-7, 1-6, some trouble there in Philly.
Yeah, without question. And back to the West thing real quick, like, with Carmelo, it took him a couple of teams to finally say, okay, I'm a role player, I'll embrace it, and he did really well with it. I don't think Westbrook, I don't know him at all, but I'm just going to guess by outside looking in that he's probably not going to accept a role like that. That he'd probably just not want to play than taking a role like that. Again, I'm speaking just from my own guess, and that's a tough one. And, I don't know, a lot of good subplots this year. And the question is, after you trade for him, say they do a trade and these 2 picks are going to be attached to Russ, does the team that trade for him keep him? And does he become one of those, okay, you can get him for a veteran minimum and then bring him in the second unit, let's go. Now he becomes probably a better asset where you're not taking his salary on, where if, like say Utah takes him on, in my opinion, Utah trades for him, there's no reason for Utah to keep him. They got young players that trying to develop, get reps. Why would you want him there when he's going to take away from that? So I would probably just release him. Then a team like, I don't know, I'll just throw it out there, like a Dallas or something like that is like, you know what, let's bring him off the bench. Brooklyn, let's bring him off the bench. Like somebody like that, like let's do that. But who knows? It'll be a shit show going forward for sure.
It will. All right. Tanking. Adam Silver's made some comments, one of which was he's thought about relegation. I'm like, yeah, okay, buddy. Yeah, you have not thought about any relegation because he said he's thought about relegation but never really got any traction with it for teams to get put into the G League if they finish last to stop that. I'm like, there's no chance whatsoever. Imagine the Lakers finish last. Like, you're going to put them in the G League? Please. But it was a fun discussion by Adam Silver. But he's basically we have put teams on notice, quote unquote. We're going to be paying particular attention to the issue this year. You can't stop it. Not with the current set of rules. It's tough because, most seasons teams tank for a number 1 pick. This one's, with all the media attention and hype and the player that Victor is, this is a generational player. We're being told that, everyone should essentially be tanking, which is why it's so strange that Utah and a few of these teams are at the top of the hill. But I mean, I don't know. What's your solution to stop tanking? I'd love to hear yours. I've got one. What's your solution?
My solution would be to break the lottery up into 3 spots. You got your number 1 pick. Actually, you get your top 3, Then you've got like from 3, you've got like 4 to 7, and then you got 8 to 15, right? To me, you can't if you finish in the top 3 in the lottery, you shouldn't be able to get in the top 3 again for another year or two. Meaning, I don't care. You got to get them out of the lottery. You got to get them out of that top 3, top 4.
I love Philly. What Philly did for like a 4-year span.
Yeah, exactly. Like you could tank, but the thing is, like, okay, you're gonna get a top 3 pick. This for like if you finish 1, 2, or 3, you're done for like 2 more years. So like you could only finish like 4 to 8. 4 to 7, 4 to 8.
You go down a block, yeah.
Yeah, and then that's it, and that's all you do. I've heard some things like Frank Isola, that does his podcast with radio show with Scalabrini for Sirius Radio. He said something like, take the lottery teams and then have either a tournament, and the winner of the tournament gets the number 1 pick, or the way they finish past a certain date, record-wise, the best record gets the number 1 pick. And this way they're competitive.
Damn, he stole my shit.
I'm sorry. No, I didn't steal it. Frank Isola did.
He stole it. He stole it. Isola stole it. That's what I was thinking. I've been saying this for years. I was like, if you really want to stop it, right now, so you got top 10 make the playoffs essentially with the play-in, right? So you've got another 10, you've essentially got 10 teams that are out. Why not just have a playoff type tournament for them? And you have, if you finish 11, which would be you're the number 1 seed in that bottom 5 tournament, and you get home court and you play off for the right to the number 1 pick, right? It makes total sense because it keeps those teams competitive, and hey, they might sneak up to a playing game, right? If they stay competitive, they don't go full tank mode post All-Star break. Fans are still coming to watch something. There's a lot of hype about teams getting the number 1 pick. I think people would somewhat buy into it. Look, we had a shitty season, but we've got a chance to, we're playing off in a final, a one-off game for the number 1 pick. You're winning something, right? So there's a lot of hype with it. The kicker is this, Pro, and this is what I couldn't work my head around. This is the one negative with it. What if a team has traded its future first-round pick?
Yeah,
and then they tank in that tournament to screw the other team up. Yeah. That's what I can't get around. My fix was maybe you put it. You don't want prize money. You got to have some sort of incentive for those teams. Like, okay, I'm not sure if that's a situation where the team's traded its pick and we know you don't have to try as hard or care about these games. For that team, we'll give you a $250,000. I don't know what it is, Pro. That's what I can't work out. So we should probably have a little counseling session of how we figure it out. But I think it's plausible, man. It's have that set of games. It's more money for them, more TV time. There's more hype, more people talking about it. There's a big build up and bunch of people discussing, who they think's going to win that silly little tournament. And I think you do it from as soon as the season ends. You go straight away for a week, and then you push into the playoffs. It kills that 5 days. Maybe you play every day. So there's 10 teams, and it's just a knockout tournament. Bam, 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 bam. Or something along those lines. But yeah, the big kicker is, Pro, that if you've traded your pick away, you're not going to play as hard to try and make sure that a team gets a high pick.
And also, Bogues, like if you're the players on that team, how many players do you think are like excited to play in a tournament like that at the end of the year and playing for a number 1 pick that guy essentially is going to take your job? So it's like, are they that excited to play? Even if they're going to get a little bit of money, I guess that playoff money that they wouldn't get, for making it. I will be honest with you. I think that would be more exciting, a tournament or whatever, than the play-in tournament. And I like the play-in tournament, don't get me wrong. But I think the people will be more excited in getting up to watch those games to see who's going to get the pick. Because, they got to do something. And to be honest, those games are so bad at the last month of the year, especially for the teams that are tanking.
Oh, it's horrendous. It is horrendous.
I would probably put something in with record-wise, from a certain date, like lock in the lottery teams, lottery teams, say March 1st. And then it's the best record of those teams rather than the tournament at the end of the year where those guys will totally flatline, because it'll literally be a G League showcase from that moment on, because a lot of these vets are going to shut it down.
The two ways and all that bullshit.
Folks, I don't know what it is, but I'll tell you what, I'm tired of seeing the same teams for like a 3 or 4 year period. I know it's the formula to become good.
Yeah, you're incentivized to do it though. That's a problem. Like OKC, like they're incentivized. They blew up all their stars. They're actually incentivized to do it. I mean, the only other thing that could work, Pro, sorry to cut you off, would be just make it simple. If you finish 11, that's like finishing last. So you make it simple. The higher you finish in that bottom 5 gives you more ping pong balls. So if you're 11 now, you get more ping pong balls than 12. 12 gets more than 13. 13 gets more than 14. 14 gets more than 15. So then that's the clearest, easiest way to prevent. People argue, it's not fair for the teams that are really bad. Well, get better. Like, spend some money in the off season, get better so you can maybe move yourself from 15, 11 one season, then you're playing the year after. But that would be probably the simplest way without adding extra games. 11 now gets more ping pong balls.
Yeah, absolutely. Without question. I wonder if, obviously you can't relegate. I mean, that's, we're not a Ted Lasso episode here. I mean, come on, Well,
imagine Rio Grande Valley is the promotion team.
Yeah,
like on the border of Mexico. They play in this little crappy arena. Like, we played there in a preseason game. It's a town of there's not very many people in that town. I couldn't even tell you, but you're going to move. So they get promoted and the Lakers or the Knicks get demoted for a season? Come on, man.
But, Bogues, what about this? If you finish in the lottery, more than 2 years in a row, they take 5 home games from you or something like that. Like, you're not relegated, but it's gonna, just like soccer relegation, obviously it's embarrassing and it hits you in the pocket where it doesn't kill you, but 5 games is big and, is a decent part of the pie. I don't know what to do, Bogues. I'm not that smart, but they definitely have to do something and change the way it's done. Look, they changed it before. It used to be, they brought the envelopes in, put them in the giant ball, and they would crank it up like a bingo game, and they would pick envelopes, and everybody would have the same chance, which I thought was really cool. All the lottery teams.
Yeah, until the Knicks envelope was creased in the corner.
Yeah, that was hilarious.
Oh, yeah, that was the other one. The cold envelope was the other rumor. But there was one. It's on YouTube. You can find it. There was one where there was the ear of the cardboard piece was severely bent.
Yeah, it was the same one. That was the Patrick Ewing draft. And like I said before in last week's episode, when we were talking about this, there aren't many drafts where there's a generational player. In my lifetime, not even the Jordan draft. People weren't excited like that because they didn't know Jordan was going to become that. There was the Ewing draft. There was the LeBron draft.
Bird.
Yeah, the Magic Bird. Well, actually, no, because Bird got drafted before he even finished college because he transferred from Indiana to Indiana State. So back then, Bogues, after as long as you did 4 years in college. So he essentially did 5 years because of the transfer year. That Red Auerbach drafted him, sat him up. He didn't play the year. He played for Indiana State, but the Celtics already had his rights. But there's been 5. I think Yao Ming, you would say that Yao Ming was probably part of that, but not a lot of, even the Durant draft, people weren't wow, Durant's
Shaq was the other one.
Shaq was, yeah. So there's only about 4 of them. And look, to get this kid, I think teams will do anything. I think Milwaukee will shut it down if they can get that kid. You know what I'm saying? It's interesting, but they got to do something. Look, the one thing about the NBA, and Adam Silver's been probably one of the best at it. I know we talk, sometimes we call him for what he is sometimes, but he has done a lot to change the old ways of the league. Like it, not like it, whatever, but the play-in game and the tournament that they're going to try to do, he is sort of progressive with that. It'll be interesting to see what he does with the tank. He's got to change it, and he's got to make it where you don't you don't give incentive for these guys to tank. And I don't know what it is. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. I have to do it because it's brutal going to a tanking team's game in March. And there's a lot of Australians that go over for a holiday and they try to see an NBA game. They end up catching a game like that. And it just rubs you the wrong way, in my opinion. I like your idea as well. If you're in the lottery, you're bottom of the league. You can't be in the top 5 picks 2 years in a row, something like that. They need to do something. We just don't want to see the OKC/Philly, trust the process type things happening now. Where it looks like San Antonio is, going that route potentially, even though they're winning. But you just don't want to see it. It's not good for anyone.
No, it's not. But the thing is, look, every rule. I don't care if it's in society, government, basketball, baseball, whatever it is, everybody just wants to circumvent the rules. So you give them a set of rules and then you're like, okay, here's our baseline.
Find the loophole.
Yeah, let's find a loophole. And that's all they're doing. So it's not wrong. It's not good for the sport. But if
I don't blame the teams.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't blame the teams. If I'm in that, our best case scenario is an 8 seed. Our worst case is last. I'm probably going to go last if there's a victor rolling around. And even most years, even if you're in that realm, you're still going to go for the number 1, number 2 pick, right? So you can't blame the teams. It's the body, the governing body in the league. They need to put something in to stop it. Like Adam Silver's comments around, we're going to be watching those teams. Well, how are you going to prove that All-Star 1 really doesn't have an injury, or All-Star 2 really didn't have COVID, or, and they're resting guys, or guys are injured, or the coach wants to bench someone. I thought he wasn't playing well, so I benched him the next game. How are you going to go to a team and be like, hey, we know you're purposely tanking? That's very, very hard to prove. Very, very hard to prove. It's obvious as hell. Obvious to everyone. But to actually prove it, if you went to court or whatever and say, hey,
you can't.
It's impossible. It's impossible. Are you saying our medical staff's lying? Are you saying the player's lying, or he didn't have mental health issues, or a hurt knee, or are you saying our coach can't coach? So it's kind of it's pretty interesting where there's a fallback mechanism that protects teams doing it without actually getting penalized too much. And
I'm wondering, Bogues, though, now that I'm thinking about it, if you did relegate by taking home games away, or take percentage of the money they get back from the league, if you take not just totally destroy them, but if you hit them hard enough where say it's back-to-back lottery, it's 3 games, third, and then if you go to third year, it's 6 games, and then you cap it out at 8, you lose out on 8 home games. I wonder if that owner, if you did that and that owner knows that they're going to get hit by tanking again, if they're like, hey guys, I can't afford to fucking tank, so we're going to win games, or it's everybody's ass. I'm wondering if you hit them in the pocketbook, because look, that's the only way you're going to get better. Player development can only take you so long, so far. So you need talent, you need draft. And most of these small market teams, no free agent really wants to go there. No top level free agent. So the draft's all you got. So I understand why you do it. But I'm wondering if the owner knows. So it's all right, this is our third year. We're going to get hit with 7. We're going to lose 7 home games. Literally, I don't know what it's going to be. We're going to miss out on $15 million in revenue. I'm not doing that shit this year. We're making the fucking playoffs.
Or just incentivize the play-in and playoffs more, because the issue is going to be, what if you were a tank team? Let's say you're OKC right now, right? And you tank again this year, you get a pick, and then next year you've signed an all-star in free agency, you've got a team that's supposed to be really good, and 3 of your top 4 get injured, and you just by accident end up in the lottery again. That's going to be the devil's advocate to that rule. It's we lost, we had ACL, we had back, we had a broken ankle. That's where it's tough. I think maybe, incentivizing winning even more, people will question that, because winning should be everything. You shouldn't be incentivized even further, but yeah, it's a bigger discussion than even what we're having. There's so many different ways you can go with it. I think probably the simplest way, honestly, just as we discussed and work this out together, was just make 11 the one, I think. That's the simplest format. Just if you're 11th, you've got more ping pong balls. And if you're dead last, you get less out of that 5. And then it at least keeps teams competitive till the very end. But no easy solution. All right, JJ Redick, he gave a line about, hey guys, don't bash the Lakers. Just enjoy the beauty of LeBron's greatness, or some shit like that, as Pro said in the quote. Very interesting, because usually with most stars, what do we hear with stars historically that put up good numbers? Pro.
They're the stat chasing.
Yeah, but what do they need to do to really solidify their stats?
Oh, they got to win.
They got to win games, right? So Now all of a sudden, I mean, LeBron's body of work is, I'm not going to even argue that. He's going to go down as the greatest, and I'm a huge MJ fan over LeBron, but I think LeBron will go down as the greatest just because he's going to break the record and his longevity and, XYZ. But it's funny that Redick would go this line after most guys are like your Hardens of the world, and even Giannis before he won that chip, we were even probably a little, at him a little bit for he's got to get to the chip and prove that he can do it on his own back. Now all of a sudden it's like, oh, no, that's not important anymore. Just enjoy the greatness of the show, pro.
I think in media, everybody's, hunting that catchphrase or that one line that just sort of people, they want to be first saying it. Because it's weird because JJ is usually not like that. He's not really mushy like that, sentimental. I guess he just sort of gives it to you straight.
Never used to be, pro would be the word you're looking for. Never used to be before he got involved with ESPN, yes.
Well, it's a lot of money, and LeBron owns that network. He owns most networks, and you can't really go against him. Not that you should, but there's not a lot of beauty in watching that team play right now. So I don't think there's much beauty to it. But it's just interesting that, again, I wouldn't expect that out of him or RJ or someone like that. I'd expect it out of, like, I don't know, Stan Van Gundy, Doris Burke, something like that. I really wouldn't expect that out of him. But hey, look, he's probably getting $5 million a year or whatever he's getting. God bless him. But yeah, I just thought it was a weird line to say, the beauty of, like, it. I don't know. Like I said, I don't think there's much beauty in watching that team play in its current form. And
I wouldn't wish that upon no man, bro. I don't know why you did it to yourself, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I know. I was bored, and I got no other stories for you.
All right, another one, pro. Pistons GM Rob Murphy has been put on leave due to an investigation that reportedly centers on an allegation of workplace misconduct involving a former female employee. So I told you so. This shit's normal. No, it's not normal. Let's not normalize it, but this shit happens on every team, everywhere I've been. I'll reiterate it again. Players, staff, trainers, masseuses, front office. And it's not always player involvement, but it is a high testosterone environment, plane trips, bus trips, hotel rooms at 2 a.m., late night drinks sometimes, team functions. Do the math. This happens in regular workplaces. It's magnified because people are in the spotlight. People are in the, their earnings are made public. There's always get back if things don't go right in these little swindles or relationships. Just another one. And this is, I've had 2 in the last 2 months. This is the norm in the NBA. So for people and pro sports in general, especially in the US with the amount of money involved. So just another one. We don't have to get too much into a pro, but you got to wonder that moving forward from this, where people will be, I don't know, they got to be on watch for themselves and just make sure you don't stray out of the lines because one night of fun or one night of stupidity, you can lose everything. That for a lot of these GMs and front office staff, it's obviously a dream come true, or they've come from a different job and they really love what they're doing, and you can lose it overnight.
Yeah, it's a really it's a strange situation. Like you get those workplace relationships, probably like 3 types, right? You get the one that's probably borderline criminal, right? Something happened. Drinking, blah, blah, blah happened. Then you get the power ones, the ones that like get off on the power of, going after somebody that's lower on the food chain than them. And then you get the third one, which is probably the most common, where it's just 2 people just, starting a relationship and there's no power, there's no ulterior motive. It's just sort of, that's what it is. But it's just legally.
What about the fourth one, pro?
What do you got?
The fourth one.
What do you got?
Oops, I fell.
Oops, I fell. Yeah.
Oops, I fell on it.
Yeah. I never fell like that, Bogues, unfortunately. But it's just what we're doing these days, Bogues. It's especially now with the light that's shed on it. You're probably gonna see 5, 6, 7 more of these in the next 18 months with investigations and people opening up the books to it. But like I said before, I'm totally against it. I think it should be illegal on any level, just to sort of everybody's playing in the same rules, and you don't get any legal issues. But like you said,
once again, that's why people do it, bro. If as soon as you say that and it's illegal, that's the thrill for some people, right? It's unfortunately the reality of it. But to think this is just the Pistons or just the Celtics, I got to. I'm out in the desert and I got a bunch of sand to sell you essentially, because this is rampant throughout the league, and some of them are swept under the rug and kept quiet. Some aren't. Some are quiet settlements. Some aren't. Some are player payments to someone just to keep quiet. So, but it all eventually comes to light, and like if it's consensual, I really have no issue with it. Different to you, where if it's consensual and there's no marriages involved and someone's hooking up, it's like, okay, well, you're adults. There's risks here. This could hinder your workplace relationship. I'm not a person that's like, it's completely frowned upon. You can't do that, because I know what human beings are like. But just know that there's consequences for your actions, and everyone's been in a workplace that has had people that have dated and then broke up, and then it becomes a place that's not workable. And I think that's why you have these rules, to Pro's point, where you want to have a strict kind of guideline around it, because performance then lacks, and then as a manager you got to move one half of the partnership that got together over here and make sure they're not together, and then you're focusing on some shit that is not helping your business or your NBA team. So I get it, but it ain't going to stop anytime soon, Pro, because it happens everywhere in the world. So,
by the way, breaking, Bogues, the Phoenix Suns are up, beating the dog shit out of the Los Angeles Clippers right now by 18. And our boy, Mr. 8-month probation, Jock Lawndale, has 6-4 early. So I won't be hearing from him for another 14 months. And I want to make sure his name's mentioned, because I've gotten a lot of shit for forgetting his name. God forbid, right? The fucking Karl Malone of the fucking West this year. I got to mention the fact that he has 6-4 early. He's killing it. I just want to make sure he's happy with the amount of airtime he gets on our show.
Kawhi's out of that game, right? Yeah, he's out. This is the thing with the Clippers, man. It still bothers me that they do this. I know they want to manage guys and get them right. They need reps, man. Like, I know it's early in the season and it's probably an overreaction, but historically they've done this the last 3 or 4 years with a healthy roster. It's like you gotta play together, man. Like, what are you doing? Like, because they're gonna do that thing where tonight it's Paul George at rest, tomorrow it's Kawhi. It's like they got to get some sort of consistency and learning how to play together. You can't just. I know Kawhi and Paul are all league players and potentially going to be Hall of Famers, but you can't just switch it on in April. Like, they need to get some reps, man.
The back-to-backs, I could see you doing that for the back-to-backs. Like, hey, like Kawhi, let's not risk it. Yeah, the back-to-backs, he should never play. But resting, they rested last game. This is like 2 games in a row that they rested. So
yeah, maybe had a flare up, but even like just resting, it's because they don't want to go. They don't want to rest Paul and Kawhi at the same time for obvious reasons. You'd rather have one playing than not. But then what that does is they don't play together enough, right? So it's like when Kawhi has his rest night, Paul plays, and then PG needs a rest night, Kawhi plays. It's like they did this the year before Kawhi got hurt, and it frustrated the shit out of me because they just seemed like they had no gel. Like you look at all the teams that have gone deep in the finals, Boston, the Golden State Warriors, even Cleveland when they had that run against the Warriors. Like, it's the same group playing together every night. You get that continuity. Oh, this guy likes this here. This guy's got a weakness here on the help side. I need to do this. Oh, this guy gets burned a lot here. I got to get there early. Blah blah blah. X Y Z. And that's what frustrates me with the Clippers. I have them picked as one of the championship favorites, but that just really frustrates me. I think that's the one chink in their armor where they I think I like to see them come, but January-ish, just start ramping it up and enough of those rest nights, back to back or 4 and 5s. Totally get it, but yeah, that's just.
But you know what, Bogues? They get to be if they do win it and they rest them a certain amount of games, they get to. Oh,
everyone's gonna call it.
Well, yeah, they get to be the first team ever to do this because that's what we live in society. Every 5 seconds, it's a first person ever to do this, the first team ever to do it. So they'll be the first.
And everyone will copy it.
Exactly.
Everyone will copy it.
Exactly.
Yeah, of course. But I mean, yeah, it's yet to be seen. We'll see if it works for them. But I hope the the Clippers can get on some sort of win streak, because I think they should go pretty deep. All right, we'll get to the NBL in a second. Dabble is betting meets social media. I was lucky enough to be down at Dabble headquarters in Melbourne last week and did some live stream promo stuff. I actually won some people a lot of money, Pro. They weren't too happy with me. I did a multi in the Golden State game. I think I did Golden State by more than 7. Anthony Davis 25 plus. I did Clay 14 plus and Steph 20 plus, and it was paying $8, I think. And they used it as a promo that if you place a bet and one of the legs fails of the multi, you get $25 back. So it was a pretty good comp, and we had 1,250 odd people copy the bet and obviously put their denomination on. And it won, Pro, so it cost Dabble a little bit of money. But yeah, if you want to jump on Dabble, you can follow your friends, stalk the experts. You can see my tips and copy them straight to your account, all in one tap. Very, very easy. Get alerts when your mates and expert tipsters place bets. I'm Andrew Bogut, all one word on there. Download the app, have a dabble socially, and gamble responsibly, Pro. But I got one right for the punters, Pro, so it was good.
You keep doing shit like that, they're gonna fucking send you a letter saying, "Why don't you dabble with another fucking sponsor next year, motherfucker?" All right, so start taking
cease and desist.
Games. Yeah, hey, forget about Adam Silver. You got to start taking some games for us, brother. We need this sponsor. Trust me.
Yeah, no, I drew my playoff run last season. There was a lot of angry dabblers at me because I didn't get many right. I think I was 1 or 2 for 10 or 15 or something like that. So this was a little thank you to them, and they got paid, which was kind of good. And thanks to Dabble as well for possibly refunding $25 max on people's bets as an insurance policy. So it was a good little promo. NBL, a lot of news, Pro. Oof, a lot of news. So the Cairns Taipans were your league leaders during the weekend. They got to number 1 because the Kings squandered to the Adelaide 36ers. Paul Smith, majority owner, made some comments in the media leading up to the game. Now, people deemed him controversial. He said something like, the Adelaide 36ers, they think they're the Golden State Warriors of the NBL. They go over there, they beat Phoenix. Looking forward to playing him here. He said that he's glad we're playing him a couple of weeks after they got back to Australia. He doesn't want any jet lag excuses. And we ended up losing. Adelaide punched us. They shot the ball really well. But some people were like, oh, Paul Smith, it's so arrogant to say that. He's done this 3 or 4 times. Whenever we have games that aren't selling tickets well, Pro, he strategically will get on the radio on a Monday or a Tuesday and do this. And people still haven't figured it out. People still have not figured it out. It created a lot of content, a lot of hype. People were like, how can you say that? You're an owner, blah, 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 blah. Well, I got a lot of bums on seats in the arena, Pro. So for the people out there that are frustrated by it, I know Paul very, very well. He's a hard on his sleeve type of guy. We need those owners in the NBL, in my opinion. I don't like the owners that are quiet and don't, that's how they do it. But in my opinion, I like the guy that's passionate, crosses the line every now and then, hard on his sleeve. He had to sit courtside for that game. And I know the Adelaide players, once they won that game, they went up to him and gave him their piece of their mind. So it created a bit of tension there, good rivalry. I'm not sure what you think about the comments, Pro, but people that saw it on face value didn't understand that this is something he always does, but I don't know how you see it, bro.
Well, Bogues, people got to understand too, like owners today, they're not like the ones 15 years ago where you barely hear from. Now they're very vocal. I would say most owners on most teams and most high-level professional ball clubs, you hear from them a lot more than you don't. And that's what they do. They yuck it up and they get a lot of, it's either self-promotion or it's like they're trying to get a competitive edge. They want to get under people's skins and push buttons. And that's what we're doing with social media and all this other stuff. They're using it for those reasons. So it doesn't really, I don't really feel one way or another about it. Like look, if
it's still frowned upon here, Pro, is my point. So, like, to your point of in the NBA, it's becoming more normal. Here, it's not. I mean, he's by far the most outspoken owner in the NBL. Good, bad, indifferent, sunny day, rainy day. He's going to, troll. He's going to prod. He's going to positive, negative, whatever it is. In the NBL, it hasn't come because there's a lot of ownership groups that have 5 or 6 different owners, and there's a lot of teams that are more traditional where like, we'll just keep quiet and be behind the scenes. But I like it. Like I said, I think. Look, sometimes he does cross the line, and he'll even be the first to tell you that. But I want passion. I want NBL owners that are passionate. Well, I don't want owners from the 90s and 2000s that the only time you heard their name was when the club went bankrupt and they couldn't afford the license anymore. I don't want those owners. I want the owner that's like passionate about it. Like this dude, like Paul Smith takes these losses worse than players at times, right? I have to tell him, man, hey, it's a regular season game. Like, I've been with him in the car after a regular season loss. Like, hey, we've got another 20 of these things. Relax, man. It's all right. Like, it's a long journey. We need these bumps in the road where he's ready to nick himself, right? So it was just an interesting one. But I think the NBA has definitely changed, to your point. But the NBL is still we're usually 5 or 6 years behind the NBA, so we'll catch up in 3 or 4 more years and have more owners brawls, which isn't always a bad thing as long as it's done respectfully. But anyway, Cairns were number 1. They ended up playing New Zealand on Sunday. The New Zealand Breakers Pro scored 5 points total in the first quarter of their game and came back to win and beat Cairns in Cairns, so it knocked them back to second. Sydney then had a chance to make up for their loss on Friday, and they played Melbourne United on Sunday afternoon after that Cairns New Zealand game. They beat Melbourne United. They actually demolished them by 18. Melbourne were up 10, I think, early. They got off to a great start, and then the Kings just ran over them. Brisbane's still winless. They're in Baines. Brisbane, look, it's not so easy to just sign a few ex-NBA players and win now in the NBL. It's just not. You back in the day, maybe, but it's very, very hard to do. Tyler Johnson, of course, is there as well. And they just can't get any rhythm or sync together. They played much better over the weekend and was a close loss for them to, I think, Southeast Melbourne. But they definitely look better. But I still think they have some work to do. They play Illawarra tonight, pro time of recording, and Illawarra's 1 win for the season. So this could be the time they get off their 0-4 start. Tasmania pro, your guy, Scott Roth. They started the season 0-3 pro. 0-3, they beat the Perth Wildcats, who some have as championship favourites, pro. In Tasmania, they absolutely demolished them, pro. Demolished them. 29 points they beat them by. I watched that game. I was at home on the couch. Unbelievable. I just can't believe this Tasmania team, pro. They're missing probably the best shooter in Clint Steindl. Kind of a... Who would he be like? A taller version of a JJ Redick from Orlando days, running off all these pin downs and cross screens, doesn't really dribble much, but just shoots the piss out of it. And they're missing Will Magnay, who had a stint in the NBA for a little bit, G League / New Orleans. He's hurt as well, and he's an elite rim protector. So they're missing 2 of their better players, and they just continue to get it done. So Scott Roth, man, he gave out the big yell after the game, and unbelievable win for Tasmania, and yeah, they're back in the mix on the ladder right now. As it stands, Sydney number 1, New Zealand 2, Cairns 3, Adelaide 4, Perth 5, and Tasmania now 6th. So they're in the top 6 now after an 0-3 start, pro. So your guy Scott Roth, he's lighting up those cigars as we speak.
Yeah, my boy Adam from Serbia that you met that works for the Knicks, he sent me a video of him saying like our house. I'll tell you what, he did seem a little subdued. So it wasn't as like animalistic as it was last year. So maybe he's a little subdued about it. I hope he gets back to his roots and, starts scaring people again. But no,
he was mad into that game because they were up. Well, they up 30 or 30. They're up 30 or something like that. And they had the ball with 18 seconds left, got the rebound, and Scott Roth yelled to his players, "Don't shoot it, just dribble out, be respectful." And so the player dribbled it over the half court, and the Perth team stole it and tried to lay it up. And so he was mad at that. He told the head coach, "I was trying to be respectful for you guys, and you guys stole it." So they had a little argy-bargy, and then he went on to his passionate, "This is our house." So I think that kind of threw him off a little bit, but they're looking very, very good again, Tasmania. So I give them a lot of credit. I had them out of the finals, out of the playoffs, just because I thought talent-wise they weren't going to be there, but they continue to surprise. Sydney Kings finished the round with that win over Melbourne, and that marks the 16th straight road game they've won in a row, pro. So that carries on from the finals of last season. That's an NBL record, all-time record, 16 straight road games. Just seems like the Kings are a bit more locked in on the road. It's been a staple from last season and this season. I think at home we kind of, and a lot of teams do this, we coast out, come out of the gate a little slow, and on the road I just feel like we're we're way more locked in. So that's a great record. Here's one for you, Pro. Jordan Caroline, are you familiar with that name?
I am not, no.
So an import for Melbourne United, hasn't played well, kind of an undersized 4, put some decent numbers up in Europe. I looked at his stats from the last couple of seasons. Anyway, hasn't played well, missed a lot of bunnies around the rim, whatever. United head coach Dean Vickerman did a press conference post the Kings game last night, which I think was very inappropriate. I think it was
I saw
very
that.
Poor taste. Yeah, basically just hung him out to dry. And there's been rumors that he's going to be moved on. That's the brutal harshness of the NBL Pro, is that you could still be playing a game knowing your replacement's on a plane until he lands. Then we're going to waive you. That's just how brutal it is. He's been in those rumors for the last week or two. Anyhow, he's at a press conference and he's asked about, how Caroline struggled a little bit. And he goes, we're just in the locker room talking about if Jack White, who was their previous 4-man last season, who's now the Denver Nuggets, if we had Jack White on the team still, he would have made all those little bunnies, and we just had a little laugh about it in the locker room with the coaches. And I'm like, did you really just relay a conversation you had, in an intimate setting in the locker room with your coaches, talking shit about your current rostered player and being teary-eyed about a previous player you had? Like, that's just utterly disrespectful to Caroline. And I'm not a United fan by any means, but I mean, I'm defending Caroline here to an extent, because this is just poor. He's still on your roster, man. He still has to show up to practice tomorrow now and look you in the eyes as a head coach and be like, yeah, man, appreciate you having my back, dude. Like, what the fuck? And secondfold, it severely hinders this player's potential future value going to other leagues. Like, so I'm glad you saw the interview. I thought it was really, really inappropriate. I think, look, everyone knows these conversations happen. You just don't take them to the media, and you don't leave a player out. And he might have thought it was an innocent comment. It's some insight that'll be good for the media to hear, but you basically left your import out to dry, Pro.
Bogues, we've been around a lot of coaches, and from all levels, and there's nothing worse than a coach that has no fucking self-awareness of like what they're doing. And maybe he does, and maybe he's a narcissist, and maybe he just wants to fuck with this kid. He doesn't care. But like, you don't do that. That's like, you don't kill somebody that's sitting right next to you. Busting their chops is one thing when everything's going well, like, and you want to bust a guy's chops. That's totally fine. But like, you know how it is. You know that those are probably a lot of rumblings that he's going to get replaced. And you're talking about former players and conversations and things like that. You don't do that to a player. You don't. Because it's just, when the going gets tough, that's how you react. And that's how you deal with adversity. You shit on a player right there. And it's just... Well,
imagine Caroline had a press conference and said, well, my previous Euro coach put me in better situations.
Yeah.
Like, he's going to have a meeting with the coach the next morning, right? Like,
no doubt.
So there's a bit of double standard there. And it's just, I thought, I don't feel bad for Melbourne United. I feel bad for Caroline. I think that's just real poor. It's not a way we should treat imports in this league. They, unfortunately, they have a tough gig. Like, they're hired guns a lot of the time. They can be cut on a whim. And unfortunately for a lot of NBL teams, it's easier to place blame on an import rather than maybe you're not coaching as well as you once did. Maybe you don't have that deep roster you had, where you had guards you could throw the ball to that would get you a bucket in a Casper Ware or someone like that you could have a shitty offensive possession and have the luxury of like, we're still going to find a bucket because we've got an elite scorer. Well, he doesn't really have that this season. And I think that's a big part of it. Their spacing isn't great. And they just have some pieces that don't fit. They got to figure it out. But leaving your 4-man out to dry like that, and look, he did miss some monies. He hasn't been playing well. He has not been playing well. But my point to everyone, if anyone out there is going to say, well, you're a direct guy, Bogues. What else are you supposed to do? The import's not playing well. Keep that shit in house. You don't need to run to the media and then blast this guy's image for the world to see. So that's all I would say on that. We spoke about last week that the leak of NBL salaries was coming out. There was team salaries, and now they've released the player salaries. Well, the player salaries are wrong. So advice if the person who leaked the salaries listens to Rogue Bogues, some advice would be, if you're going to leak something, at least give the right numbers. So our player salaries are way off. We have some players ahead of other players that shouldn't be in XYZ. So they're off. They're not great. So disappointed that someone's going to leak something and get it that wrong. I know the NBL Players Association and some clubs were pretty fired up about this being leaked. Well, you can kind of somewhat take it in stride now, knowing that whoever leaked them doesn't have the right ones. So that made the news. But look, bro, I'll say it again. I've said it numerous times. I'm big on releasing salaries. I think it's a very, very important. I'm in the minority there, but happy to voice my opinion on it. I think it's a no-brainer for the NBL. It's another talking point. It's another thing that no one does in Australia that the NBL could do. No league no sporting league in Australia releases player salaries. If we could do that, I think it's a good thing. It's a talking point. It's hey, this team spent 1 million less than this team. It's David versus Goliath battle. You've got that, you've got that feel to it. You've got, wow, that player was worth this much. Now they're worth this much, or blah, 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 blah. I think net positive overall, whether it's 60% positive, 40% negative. The only negative is the Players Association hates it. I don't think the league really has a yes or no to it, but they know the Players Association is against it. And some players don't want it released because I think some agents have a lot of leverage when you don't know, what guys are earning. Because if I'm comparing player X on my squad and I need to pay him, extend him, I don't know what player Y is earning till the end of the season. So it really helps players somewhat make a little bit more, I think, and helps agents drive up the price. But I think if you're talking transparency, if you're talking making sure no one's cheating the cap or doing anything weird, the only way to do that is to make salaries public. Because if I offer you 200 grand, bro, because I saw on last season's salaries you were making 150, if I offer you 200 the next season and you scuff at that and reject it out of the door, I'm going to be like, hang on a second, are you sure you're just getting 150 because you just knocked back an offer that was 25-30% more that quickly? Something must be going on. So I think it creates a lot of transparency, pro. But I'm big for releasing it. I know we release it in the NBA, and I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, I've always wanted to know with you hear from agents or media people that tell you without putting it out there, but I've always just sort of very interested to know international salaries and what people are making. And I know you laid out all the reason why people don't want it out, and understandably so. I'm for it. I think that you should have it out just so you know who's making what, and it's very interesting to me. But people are sensitive to that. I understand why agents wouldn't want it like that sometimes, or sometimes why clubs wouldn't want it out. But I don't know. I don't see the reason why it's a big deal, but then again, I'm not there. I'm not in the league. I'm not a part of it. I just outside of looking in, just thinking it's cool, but that's just me.
Fair enough. Different for everyone, but yeah, I think it's just another one-off the NBL can do to differentiate itself from the rest of Australia and make some noise with. And then also you can talk about it in the off season. It gives you more content, more PR. The NBL at times in the off season is silent, because there's nothing going on. So you could maybe strategically strategically put out these numbers a month after the season when it's dead, and then it creates some more traction in the media, right? So I think there's a lot of useful ways you can utilize doing that, but it's a no at the moment. We'll see how that goes in the future. All right, useful or useless stats, pro. Jokic the other night had 26 points, 12 rebounds, 10 assists. He's one triple-double away from tying Wilt for the all-time center record in NBA history, pro. Useful or useless?
Oh, it's useful for sure. I mean, the guy's getting it done. The guy is getting it done. I mean, that's an unbelievable stat that, a second-round pick, don't forget, that has only been playing, less than 10 years? Probably 8 or 9 years. I mean, that's a hell of a feat. And to be mentioned in the same sentence as Will Chamberlain, it's an unbelievable, achievement for anybody, in my opinion.
Useful for me as well. All right, the fourth option on the Pelicans the other night put up 30 points on 11 field goal attempts, 17 rebounds and 4 assists. Who was that player, pro, and is that a useful stat?
Is it Valanciunas?
It is Valanciunas, yes.
Yeah, hell yeah, he's on my fantasy team, so of course it was. But I think it's useful. I mean, it's a hell of a feat for a fourth option to be doing that. But it just shows you how active the guy is and strong and, plays hard. But, I mean, on one end, you could say it's useless. It's just a freakish thing. But I think the guy plays hard. He always has. He's not the most talented guy in the world, but he just plays hard. And that's why he puts up the numbers that he has. and he has the relevance in the game, for him, because he just plays with a certain tenacity, and he's always around the basket, knows his role, does his thing. I think it's useful to me.
Yeah, I think it's useful as well. And knowing that if Zion has an off night, foul trouble, injuries, you've got a guy that's just sitting there that can contribute like that. I like their team, man. They're a fun team to watch. Even though they lost today to Utah, they have a lot of different weapons. CJ's starting to really find his feet there. Ingram, they got a lot of defenders. Zion, Valanciunas, Nance Jr. has been good for them. I mean, they just got a really nice squad. So I like what they're building there in New Orleans, and it's about time they've bounced back from the Davis era where they had a bit of success, but I think they got a chance to be a pretty good team the next couple of years. So excited to watch them grow. Next one, Anthony Davis has had 3 assists in 3 games this season. That's 3 assists total over 3 games this season, bro.
Yeah, I mean, I thought he had 3 assists in the last 3 years. To be honest, he doesn't pass the ball. He's not one of those guys. It's just not in his repertoire. But
with New Orleans, he had some high assist games in New Orleans.
He did,
and he was getting a lot of touches and doubles. But even in LA early on, he had a few. But it just seems like now it's just their junky offense. Yeah, it's just
he used to post up in New Orleans too. I mean that's something that he doesn't really do anymore. He doesn't do anymore either. But I think it's it's a toss-up for me, Bogues. I don't know if it is useful or useless. What do you think?
I think it's useless. It's an interesting stat, but it's useless. He was 0 in the first 2 games, and he had 3 today, so it made it one assist a game average. I think it's what's more useless is the Lakers' offense.
Oh God,
it's just so clunky and ugly to watch. It's like if LeBron doesn't create something or AD, it's just like here's a grenade. Shoot this. It's just not. They're not a fun team to watch. At least, there's some shitty teams that are still fun to watch, like Houston, Orlando, Utah. Like they're shitty, but they're young. They've got these young guys who are going to at least battle. The Lakers are shitty and just not fun to watch at all, in my opinion. Like the JJ Redick comment around, like enjoy the greatness of LeBron. It's not fun to watch. It's a shit brand of basketball. There's always some extra drama on it because the Lakers, and I don't enjoy watching it. So I'm going useless on that one, pro. Last one, Donovan Mitchell. I know you love your first evers. So Donovan Mitchell is the first ever Cleveland Cavalier with 3 30-point games to start a season. 37, 32, and 31. Shooting 49%, 42%, and 92% splits, pro. Useful or useless?
Useless. If it was like the first 5 games, I'd say you had.
Oh, so 2 more?
Yeah,
two more.
If you had 2 more, that's a hell of a feat. First 5
big
games.
Jump.
Yeah, that's
well, it's still a first ever, and don't forget LeBron played there.
First of all,
to start a season.
2 things that I can't stand these days, Bogues. I can't stand a lot of fucking things. Let's be honest, but first ever
salad.
Salad, of course, anything green. But days like it's Sister Day.
Oh yeah.
It's
Tree Day.
It's Tree Day, Dre Day, whatever the fuck day it is. Like, first of all, Bogues, who decides these things? Like, who decides that it's Chocolate Cupcake Day? By the way, that person is a saint to me. But like, who the fuck would decide it's like Chocolate Cupcake Day? Like, who the fuck?
Maybe it's former NBA player Todd Day, maybe.
Oh, Todd Day, yeah, maybe. But fuck, Bogues. I mean,
every day's a day, man. There's always something to celebrate, pro.
Yeah, shit.
People's Day and Earth Day and this day and that day, and
Go fuck yourself day. How about
we're
that?
We're gonna need to change the yearly calendar soon to get more days in the year because it's we're slowly running out. But so you go useless. I'm going useful just because I think Mitchell's. LeBron's been there. LeBron. This is not debut. This is first 3 games of any season to start a season for the Cavs, and he's broken that record. So with LeBron being there that long, they've had some other talented guys throughout the years, and Mark Price and whatnot as far back as you go. Pretty impressive. So I'm going to go useful on that one, pro. What do you have this week for us?
All right, Bogues. Adam Silver talked about making changes, or at least viewing some options for the possible options for tanking, to try to get rid of it. He will change the format in the next 2 years of dealing with tanking. Not the investigative part, but actually having something like a tournament or like some type of relegation, a rule change for tanking in the next 2 years. Back to fake news.
Oh, man. I'm going fake news. I just don't see what he can do. Unless, look, if it just gets so much blatant negativity that someone tanks this year so badly for Victor, maybe, but I'm going to go the under. Not within 2 years. I think maybe if you said 5, I'd probably take the over. But yeah, I'm going to go.
You fucking copied me from last time.
Yeah, but I got better odds, man. I went. That was first 3 games. You said 5. That's 2. That's not even 50%. I'm going. I need 5 from 2. That's more than 50%. So I've got better odds, bro.
Your math skills are impeccable, Bogues. Your math skills are impeccable.
I love maths.
Yeah, fucking asshole.
What do you got?
All right, Bogues. With all the tank teams winning, one of these tank teams are going to make the top 10 in their division. So I'll give you the teams: Oklahoma City, Sacramento, Orlando, San Antonio, Indiana. That's the 5th team. One of those teams will make top 10 in their division.
Fake news. No chance. Not in my opinion. Sacramento already 0-3 and they look horrible. OKC, they're going to keep developing and I think they want to be in those sweepstakes. San Antonio's the sneaky one. Because, Pop likes to go against the grain and just do things that, he's not supposed to. So maybe Indiana are not going to be very good, and Orlando already did last. So out of those, if you would have thrown maybe a Utah or Detroit in there, but yeah, I'm going fake news. None of those 5 are making the 10. They're going to be in full tank mode. Choo-choo.
Good call.
You?
I would say fake news. I don't think any of those teams are going to win. I think, like you said before, you opened up the podcast today with it, where it's too early. It's cool when a team goes 3-0, 0-3, whatever, and you're like, oh wow, they're gonna carry this on for 8 months. We all know it ain't gonna happen. We all know that ownership, management, one of these people are gonna be like, yeah, let's chill the fuck out on these wins because we ain't making the playoffs. So again, we talked about Victor and generational talent and all that. There's no way if a team has a chance to get that kid, they would. So yeah, I'd say fake news as well. All right, let's get off the tanking, Bogues. Well, I guess maybe we would still stay on the tanking. The Los Angeles Lakers will win more games than the Portland Trailblazers this year. Fact
fake news. No chance. Fake news. No, Portland look good. That's another team, actually. Portland looked better than I thought. And I had them in my 10 just based on Dame because I thought they'd scrape in just because of Dame time and all that, and he's a bucket. They look better, more organized. They look like they care. They look like they want to guard. They look like they're playing with effort. The Lakers just look terrible. It's just going to be, unless something drastic happens, they pull a rabbit out of a hat with a trade, which they can't really do because their cap's so messed up and they really don't have any assets besides Russ and, as we said,
those 2 picks, they got those 2 first-rounders unprotected. But Bogues, if I'm them, and it's not going to happen because it's such a shit show over there, they got to just say, you know what, fuck it, we're just going to be bad. We're not going to give up our picks in Westbrook. Forget about Westbrook. He's irrelevant to that. But we're not going to give up these 2 unprotected picks to get Buddy Hield and Turner because what are they going to get us? I could see if you made a deal where you can get Trae Young or something like that, where it'll get you to the top 5. I just don't see what that trade is so short-lived and short-sighted that there's no reason to make that trade. It's not going to get you much better. It'll get you a couple of spots, and it may not even get you to the playing game, to be honest with you, because they're going to be bad. And let's not forget, Anthony Davis has been hurt almost every year for the last 5 years. That's going to happen. It's just when, not if, but when, for the most part, where he's going to miss a lot of games. And they need him because LeBron just can't do it himself. This ain't 2008 LeBron anymore. This is, a guy who could put up big time numbers, but to play like that every night and to carry a team, I don't see it happening.
What's going to be funnier is game 40 when they're, 10-30 potentially, and LeBron's still playing 45 minutes just chasing that record when they absolutely suck. It's going to be hilarious. And then literally break the record and be like, all right, fellas, it's been real. See you later.
Yeah, Frank Vogel's on Manhattan Beach right now having a daiquiri, just saying, you know what, man, thank God. I'm still collecting my money for another 2 years, and I don't have to deal with that bullshit every day.
And just watching that shit show while you're collecting the money too is the fun part. So, yeah, I think the Lakers deservedly deserve. There you go.
Nice one.
Yeah, deserve everything that's coming to them. And I don't know how Pelinka got that extension, but God bless him, he did. That is the latest episode of the basketball series. Not a lot to cover in the NBA. We didn't want to get too in depth because there's a lot of water to go under the bridge still. But other than that, it's going to be another exciting year. A few teams coming out of nowhere that we didn't expect. Utah Jazz, cough, cough. But we'll see you again next week, bro.
Bogues, have a good one, brother. And I'm sure there'll be 4 more days added to the calendar by the time we meet again. So
we need a Rogue Bogues Day.
Yeah, we do.
Where everyone just talks shit to each other all day.
October 32nd. They'll put it up there.
Book it. All right. See ya.
Later.
Let's get Rogue.